think it's going live. Okay. I believe that we are now live. So welcome to Tamarah's Closet today. I'm really excited today because I have a really special guest with me, someone whom I have admired for years, actually watching him on television, and actually he's on the big screen at the theaters as well. So he has quite a resume, and there's just so many questions that I could ask him. So it was really hard to narrow it down to just a few. I'll just have to hopefully get everything covered. But he's had a really incredible career so far as an actor, and he's got a lot of exciting things going on coming out this year. He's actually best known for his role as Detective Lee Scanlon on the NBC series Medium, starring Patricia Arquette. That was in 2005 to 2011, and he was always his character he played was my favorite character on the show, one of them, and I'd actually been watching the series again. I watch it while I work out on my elliptical, and that's how I sort of found him a few weeks ago. I just was thinking to myself, I bet he's a nice guy in real life, and I think I'm just gonna see if I can find him, and I did. So I'm very excited that he agreed to do the interview with me, and he's here today. And he has been in so many movies and television shows. I'll never be able to cover it all, but I will have it all in my blog when I write the article on this. And he's got some great things coming in 2016. He has a lead role this year in the upcoming movie Shut In with Naomi Watts and Oliver Platt, as well as a series regular in the upcoming television series Van Helsing. So he's also has a recurring role in Bates Motel, and last year he was in a film, I believe it was last year, Seventh Son, starring Jeff Bridges. And then he starred in a movie, The Perfect Son, which I believe, I'll ask him to be sure, what was responsible for his Genie Award nomination and the John Garfield Award for Best Actor at the Method Film Festival.
That's right, yeah.
Good. Okay, the list just goes on and on. And his role actually in a Canadian hit series called Traders won him a Gemini Award in 1997 for Best Performance by an Actor in a Continuing Leading Dramatic Role, and the 1998 Gemini Award for Best Dramatic Series. So I want to hear a little bit about that too today, just because I think that's really cool. That's really exciting. But I know he's busy. He's had a busy morning, so I want to go ahead and bring him out and give him a huge welcome to actor David Cubitt. Are you still with me, David?
I am.
Okay, good. Well, I'm going to go right into the questions. And because I always like to know how things began for someone and got started, because Tamarah's Closet is about inspiring other people. And I wanted to know if there were any, I wasn't able to find out if there were any other actors in your family.
Well, first of all, thank you for that wonderful introduction. One of my sons, Julian, who's 21, has decided to go to acting school. He's in Victoria at UVic, 4-year BFA program, and he's in his 3rd year. Other than that, no.
No. Now, your parents weren't at all, or?
No.
No. Wow.
No,
okay.
they weren't in the arts at all.
Okay. No. All right. Well, how did you get your training to become an actor?
I had auditioned for a show that was it was one of the really early on kind of pioneering video shows. This would have been in the early 80s, I guess. Early mid 80s, and they used to do sort of dramatic and comedic little skits in and out of rock videos. And it was kind of created and produced and directed by this local DJ in town, interesting guy, J.B. Shane. And there was I ended up getting a little role in that, and there were a little kind of group of actors who would come in regularly and work on that show, and I just kind of became part of that community, and I started doing an acting class with some of them, and fell in love with it. It wasn't really like bang me over the head, but I just found myself, in in that world and wanting to be a part of it and going back and doing more and more classes. And I studied with a guy here named Alex Brahansky, who still has a class running here in the same place that I started studying. And then after that, I went to more of a conservatory program for a while, at a place called Studio 58, which in Canada has a very reputable theater program. So I did that for a year, and then really decided that route wasn't for me. They were trying to basically deprogram me, get rid of everything that I had already learned, which I valued. So I ended up leaving there and then just working. I got really fortunate, and I think my timing was right in the film market here. There was a lot of work going on, and I just started working and kept on working. Yeah.
How old were you when you started all that? Like, were your parents real supportive, or?
I was when I started. I had done. I was going to university at the time. My father was, he was a little concerned, with my choice, and I think my mother was probably more supportive, but they've come around. There wasn't any real friction.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Well, I know a lot of people in the arts. I've found that from all the people I've interviewed, they've always had that little bit of concern with their parents.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was the same way with my son, Julian.
I was going to ask you.
Think long and deep about this, because it's okay now, but when you're 45 and you want to have kids, you might regret the decision. So, I understand where my father was coming from now.
Yeah. Well, I know it is. It is tough. But what I wanted to ask you, because I read somewhere, it might have been in your bio, that you referred to your passion as for acting like a love affair. Why do you do what you do? I mean, what's the real? I guess what was the real motivation to keep you going? That drove that passion.
Yeah. I think that sort of evolves as you mature and have more life experience. But I think a big part of it was the community, and also it was like group therapy, acting class. I mean, it was dealing with the exploration of what it is, our existence, that I'd never come close to before. I mean, so that was captivating, and the community, the people that I was with, all in the same boat, all divulging the same kind of psychology and emotions, and made us very close. And I think that was all part of it.
Yeah. When you were growing up and watching movies or TV, did you know when you were really young that was something you wanted to do, or?
No, I didn't figure it out until I was really started working on that show in my mid-20s. I was more kind of athletically inclined. I was running around chasing a ball.
Yeah. Because you really are a rugby player, right? Is it rugby, or am I saying that right?
No, I played rugby. I had to play rugby. We didn't have any choice. But I was played soccer, and I played a lot of racket sports, tennis and squash.
Okay. Well, I knew you were athletic. I had read that. But I know there was, because I was thinking about in the movie Alive, that was a question I think I didn't send, and I know you really didn't look at them, which is actually good, because the movie Alive, and I watched it again after you agreed to the interview, because for some reason I didn't think I had seen that movie, and as soon as I started watching it, I knew I had seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remembered it, and I was just wondering, in that movie, that I read that really sparked your career, and
Yeah, I
that.
think it probably did. That was sort of, I was going to university at the time, and I was just about finished. I'd finished my 4th year, or I was 2 weeks away from the end of classes, and I got that job. So I was sort of going to school. I was just studying general arts. Can you hear my daughter?
Yeah.
And studying general arts, and then, as I say, 2 weeks from the end of classes, I got that offer for that role, and I went to all my teachers and asked them if I could get a deferred status so I could come back at some point and finish my degree, and they all gave me deferred status except for my film history teacher, who refused.
Really? That doesn't make sense.
Isn't that funny? But that definitely sparked my career. I think after that, and I think there were 8 or 10 of us young actors in Vancouver who got roles on that movie, and I think it kind of kick-started all of our careers. We were all so young, and then I ended up doing some series in Toronto after that, but it kind of kept on rolling.
Yeah, because when they filmed that, was a lot of that really out in the weather like that, or
yeah, all of it. Yeah, we were in Banff Springs area, a place called Panorama Ridge. We were all staying in a lodge, and we were all on 800 calorie a day diets and mandatory workout, and we all had to lose a lot of weight, and there was a lot of friction amongst the gang because we were all pretty wired on no food and lots of energy consumption. It was interesting. It was beautiful but difficult.
Yeah, yeah. Because I've always wondered when they film those types of movies, how much of it really is in the elements like that, in the weather, because
this was 100% in the weather. There was no studio. We were out there, and they had a fuselage dumped in the snow, and we were out there all the time. Yeah, it's amazing. We were in the helicopters trying to get up on the mountain. In the morning, there'd be too much fog, and we'd just be hovering there waiting for the fog to leave. And then at one point, we just sort of couldn't stay up there any longer. They just sort of went down until they could find some place to hang on. And I remember doing a stunt where I was walking along an ice crevasse. I was walking along a glacier, and an ice crevasse collapsed. And it was really a big crevasse. Like, it was probably about 40 feet across, 30 feet across, and they had used a real crevasse and infilled the top of it with like a cone of styrofoam, and then covered it and stuff like that. And so when it collapsed, I really fell into this ice crevasse, and I had a harness on, and I'm hanging out there in the harness because I have to then sort of crawl my way back up, and one of my buddies pulls me up out of the crevasse. And I'm look down, and I'm in there for an hour, and I'm looked down, and my safety, I have 2 lines, one that's got me hooked up and one safety, and the safety line is unhooked and it's just floating around.
Oh my God.
And that was a scary moment. I was still hooked up, but the fact that one of them could come undone was frightening. That would have been the end of me. Yeah.
Oh, see, I don't know. I hate the cold, so I don't know that I would have survived that movie. But
you would not. You would have miserable.
Actually, that I would think that would have really helped your acting, just because you were really experiencing somewhat of what the people went through as far as the cold, and obviously it's not the same experience because it was a true story.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. Yeah, for sure. Being up there.
Yeah.
Made it easy to relate to the elements, but that was about the extent of it. The rest of it was difficult to imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a true tragedy. But that's the film that sort of led you to Traders, right? Isn't it? Or
yeah, I did ENG. I did that, then I did ENG, which was a series that had already been on the air for few years, I think. And I think I did one season of ENG, maybe it's last season or something, and then I was in Toronto because I shot in Toronto. Home is Vancouver, and then while I was there, I auditioned for Traders. I can't quite remember, but I did audition for it there in Toronto, and then I ended up getting that, which was a great opportunity and a really good show. And that lasted, I think that lasted for 5 seasons. I did 3.5. And then when I was on Traders, I think in a hiatus from Traders, I was back home and I did some Lonesome Dove episodes at some point. And that was an interesting show. It was shot in Calgary and we were riding horses all the time, and you'd finish your day and jump on a horse and just go for a ride for fun. It was a fantastic show. I love doing Westerns. It was just a blast.
Now, I was going to ask you, is that off of the mini series, or was that the actual?
Yeah, though they sort of spun that into a series.
Okay.
And it was starring Eric McCormick of Will and Grace fame. And I played one of his lieutenants for a while or something like that. The general, a friend of his, or I can't remember. But on that show, I met Suzanne DePass, who was one of the producers, who had a management company, and I became represented by them, and ended up with really from Traders and Lonesome Dove, that association there, with a development deal at CBS. So after Traders, my time on Traders, I went to LA and was really incredibly fortunate to move right into that development deal at CBS, which enabled me to live basically while I was doing pilots for the network for a few years, trying to get something on the air, and which is an incredibly difficult thing to do. I've realized, having been down there for so long now. You think that getting a pilot deal and doing the test is a big deal, and then if you get the pilot, which is winning another lottery, then that seems like a big deal, and then you shoot the pilot, and then you have to wait, and invariably they almost none of them get picked up, and if they do get picked up, they get picked up for some of them, if you're again incredibly fortunate, will get picked up for a whole season, but it's very rare. They usually get picked up for 6 episodes or 13 episodes, and then shoot those, and then you wait and see, and then most of those don't get picked up. And so it's really getting something actually on the air that sticks for a while is very, not just difficult, it's just you have to be incredibly lucky. They can get all the right ingredients together, but you just never know, for so many variables, why something sticks or doesn't.
Yeah, I didn't realize there was that many pilots, and so that's how it works. You go sort of audition for the pilot, and then it's just sort of a hit or miss whether it actually gets picked up. Is that?
Well, yeah, it's totally hit or miss once you shoot the pilot whether it gets picked up. If you go and you test for a pilot for a major network and then you get it, the chances are you're going to shoot the pilot. But whether or not it gets picked up there's a small percentage that it's going to get picked up, and then a smaller percentage that it's going to get on the air and stick around for a while. So I did many shows, that came out of the development deal and came out of other subsequent relationships with other networks that got picked up and went for 6 months or went for a year and then didn't get picked up again. So it sustained me and it kept me working, kept me busy and engaged. But it was also frustrating. It was interesting. I mean, I worked in Chicago for a year. I worked in London, England for a year. I kind of moved around a lot, but at the end of the day, I was frustrated by not being able to get something on the air. Kind of decided my family was in Vancouver still. I decided to come back to Vancouver and be at home and with my family and friends for a while and be basically a soldier here, just work, go audition for, I lower my standards somewhat just because there's less work here. So when there's less work, you have less choice.
Yeah.
I had come back for a few weeks, and then I was in bed. It was like early. I was going to bed at, watching a movie or something. It was like 6 to 7 p.m. on a Sunday night, and we had a lot of kids at home at the time, so early mornings. And I got a call from my agent saying that I'd been offered this show, Medium. It would start out as sort of a series of guest stars for the rest of that season. And then, depending on our association or how we got along, everybody, then the idea was that it would become a regular role, series regular. And when it was explained to me, it was the show about a medium who, talks to ghosts. And I thought, this sounds like it could be bad. So my initial response was to pass. And then they said, well, because I just got home. And they said, well, take a look at it because Patricia Arquette's doing it, and it's really quite well written. So I read it, and it was a phenomenal show. It was really well written, and the way they dealt with the subject matter was really terrific. And the whole the way they had the family aspect of the show basically is half of the show, and then her solving crimes with the DA, and that was the other half. I thought it was really interesting. So that was Sunday night. I had 8 pages of dialogue to shoot Monday morning. That was Sunday night in Vancouver. 8 pages of dialogue to shoot Monday morning in LA. So I couldn't print out a whole script at home. Just didn't have enough paper or something. So I had the script sent to Kinko's at the time, or went to one of those print shops, and just went and picked up a script, learned my lines. Like, we negotiated till midnight, I think. And then I started learning lines, and for 8 pages of dialogue on Monday morning. So I took the first flight there and learned lines on the plane, and yeah, it was quite something, a whirlwind, and really great. Really proud of that show. I think it was a terrific show.
I just think it was awesome, and I remember when it came out, I just thought it was a brilliant idea, because I think so many people, we have so much curiosity about the afterlife and death, and the whole show was not only a solving crime show, but like you said, it was because I saw you were in another interview, someone asked you if you believed, and it's funny because when I saw that, I was like, I kind of always wondered about that.
Yeah.
If David Cubitt really believed, because I knew that your character really didn't. So that's just a great show, and I'm watching all of it again, like I said, while I work out. So
oh, that's great.
But I have to say something, David. That show, that your whole character on that show, your acting, you always reminded me of that detective that I could imagine you doing that part in one of those, and I hope I'm saying this right, like a film noir, back.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought, God, I can't believe somebody's just bound to grab him up for a part like that, because I think it's your voice and your whole demeanor, and to me, it's just like that whole, you would be great for something like that.
Yeah, he was kind of disgruntled and ornery.
Yeah. So, I could just see that, I was like, I could see him doing that. I think you'd be perfect. But anyway, but they were originally going to keep you until, right? And then it just they decided to keep your character. Is that correct? Or
he was supposed to be a regular character from the beginning, but they didn't have time to even get me in the room and have an interview with me. They had to cast it Sunday night for Monday morning. So it was sort of a built-in kind of contingency, just so that we make sure we all got along and that I was the right guy and I was happy there. And so it was a series of regular guest stars until that time. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, it's just great. And that sort of led me, because you were on there for 6 years. I was wondering how you handle that. Just how do you handle that when you're on a series that long and you've got knowing that you're going to be walking away from, I would think it's like family. How was that when it ended and you had to walk away?
Yeah, leaving was difficult when we all shot the last episode, the last scene. Yeah, it was. You also have to keep in mind that when you're in that for 7 years, it's also, you're also exhausted, and my family I was going back and forth on top of that, because my family was still in Vancouver. Everyone was in schools. We couldn't really bring them all out. So I was going back once, twice a week. So, when you're in that moment, I don't think we were able to actually be nostalgic about it already. It was just, okay, now there's a break, okay, and what's going to be next, and that kind of thing. But looking back, I'm of course very nostalgic about it, and very nostalgic about those last moments together, because we spent so many countless hours together.
Yeah, and you watched those young girls on the show grow up, sort of.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. Do you find yourself distancing yourself from people, like when you're going to be on a series for a while? Do the actors sort of intentionally find a distance to keep from having that?
No.
Okay.
No. I think my friends and family have, probably to an extent that I can't even be aware of, learned to just accept that I come and go.
Yeah.
But I don't do anything consciously to dissociate myself at all. No.
Yeah. Well, how do you juggle being a father, a husband, and an actor? Because you just told me you're gone a lot. How does that?
Yeah. Well, medium was probably the most challenging, just because the kids were at a certain age. I was coming and going a lot. My wife had to basically run the show for 7 years. It's just a long time. I think if it happened again, most of the kids have already moved out. It would be a lot easier to transport everybody and call it a year or two. Look at it that way. Think of it as an adventure. Move everybody. Put them in schools temporarily, and it'd probably be interesting and good for them. But at the time, it was impossible. So if it happened again, I think it would be kind of a more cohesive situation. I'd be less fractured.
Yeah. Well, I saw an interview on, I guess it was Facebook somewhere recent, and it was just a couple of days ago, and I can't find the video again, but it was Bryan Cranston speaking after he'd won an award. I don't know when this video was made, but he was talking about what a miserable experience of casting calls, and he was trying to tell people about how to approach them. How do you approach a casting call? Because I guess I'd never given it much thought that it could be sort of it sounded like a miserable experience.
Oh yeah. Casting is pretty miserable. I mean, a regular audition's hard enough, just because it's nothing like actually shooting a scene or doing a piece of theater where you get a lot of rehearsal time. And if you're shooting a scene in television and film, you get rehearsal on the day, and then you just get endless takes until the thing comes together, and you have to shoot all these different angles, and by the time you actually get into coverage, which is your close-up stuff, you've you've created the scene and you've made it work. But whereas an audition, you kind of practice in your head and you try to say it out loud, and you walk into a room and do it for the first time, and it should be good. To be as good as you can make it be without any real rehearsal. And then if you're testing's even more brutal, because you've got for a show on a network and you do a conventional test, you walk into a room and there's 20 people, and there's like all kinds of producers and the network people and the director, and it's like doing a live theater except with no rehearsal. It's torture. And not only are they looking at you, at your performance, but they're just scrutinizing you as a human being, and they're wondering if if you've got this spark, if you've got this charisma, because it's all about that kind of stuff. And I've actually had directors take me out of the room and say, "Okay, they need to see more charisma." That's like, okay, how am I going to do that? I did end up getting the role, but I don't know if I ever had enough charisma. But yeah, it can be very grueling, the audition process. Although I recently tested for a show, which was much more civilized. I met with the director and the producer, the director has his own offices in Los Angeles, and I just went into a room and we worked on it, and he taped it, and we did the scene over and over again, just the three of us in the room, a reader and one producer and director, and they put a tape together, and then they presented that to the network, which I think is a much better way to do things. That's sort of what that's what the audience is going to see, is you on screen. That's what I think that makes sense, that's what they should use to judge you by, or your suitability for the role. They should use tape. It makes more sense to me than than a live theater performance, which is totally irrelevant.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot more sense. I do too. I do too. I agree with you on that. Well, I have to ask you: do you have have you ever had a mentor, or do you have one now, or that, I don't know, like a go-to person for advice? Or
early on, my buddy JB Shane, who was a really talented disc jockey here and who had that video show. This was super early on. This is when I was just starting out and doing classes. I did a class with him, and went on for a couple of years. He was sort of a mentor to me. I'd run all my lines with him constantly, and he was really super supportive, and he's always there for me. But then once I left Vancouver, I didn't really have anybody like that. I just didn't have time to develop that kind of a relationship. I was just working.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, not now. He's still a good friend of mine. I see him a lot, but I don't really have a mentor per se in the business. Yeah.
Well, do you have, are there any actors, I guess, if you could name three, or I don't know, you might not be able to name three, that you really greatly admire or inspire you, that you sort of follow, or?
You mean historically, or like now, who are acting now?
Either or, like it could be someone that's not even alive anymore that you've really admired, that you sort of, I don't want to say role model, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think every young male actor from my generation would have been inspired by the Brando, Clift, and Dean. I certainly didn't try to emulate them in any way as an actor, but they were definitely inspirational. I mean, watching their movies was a revelation to a young actor. Just
somebody that maybe you studied, or I don't know, just
who was also another actor that that young male actors of my generation would have loved was Mickey Rourke and his early films. Right, he was incredible.
Yeah, I like him.
You know, it's unfortunate what happened to him, but his early work was remarkable. And he did a film called Pope of Greenwich Village with Eric Roberts, and Eric Roberts was incredible in that film too. It's a beautiful film.
Oh, I have to put that on my list. I haven't seen that.
Oh yeah. Pope of Greenwich Village. It's extraordinary. And then of course, De Niro and Pacino and those guys. I don't know. I think when you're younger and you're seeing some of these performances in film, you kind of I think you probably one romanticizes, idolizes more than when you grow up. I mean, I don't really look around, people who are acting today and see them the same way. But maybe young actors starting out will look at a early, I don't know, Johnny Depp performance and think he's incredible or amazing or something. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah. Well, is there a dream? I always wonder this too about actors, if there's ever is there a dream role that you have, I don't know, that you fantasize about over your life that you would love to play that you haven't played yet? Or
Let me, sorry. Well, in a sense, I mean, not really a dream role specifically, but any role really that has a real it is all to do with personal relationships and emotional storyline, like Detective Scanlon in Medium. I had a personal storyline, but really my job was to move the audience through the plot of the crime. And so that was a specific role. If I was going to do another series long term, that would be my dream, would be to have a role that was primarily an emotional storyline. And that could take any number of sort of facets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Is there an area in your work that you haven't yet explored that you really would like to do? Like, I don't know, do you want to direct or?
Yeah, I've only recently thought I'd like to direct. Directing television has its own challenge, because the show you hop onto is like a moving train. It's already got its trajectory. It knows what it is, and your job is to kind of just figure that out and slip in and make sure that you can deliver what they already want. It's its own challenge, right? Whereas if you're directing a film, it's you create everything from scratch. It's your story. It's your project. So the thought of directing television hadn't been that interesting to me. But if I end up being on a show now, I'll definitely try to build into my contract some directing, just to have that experience. And for some reason, it interests me more now. I don't know why.
Yeah. So you can actually have that written into your acting contract that you can direct a certain episode, or?
Yeah, people do, yeah. You can. Okay. You can have anything put in your contract if
okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. Because I wondered what you saw as a difference, because I know you've worked on the major movies and you've worked on television series, and I think I told you in my email I had done some hair and makeup on both. I'd done some on television made movies, and then the a big film,
Right.
feature film. And I think the one I was on the longest was a feature film. And but because I was just in there, I think that was like 3 weeks was the longest. But I really didn't. The only thing I noticed different is it seemed like the major film was a little more stressful. And I
Oh
wonder,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
do you find
That
that it
takes
is
a
more
lot. Yeah, for sure.
relaxed?
No, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Um, from my experience, I haven't worked on a lot of major films, but I guess there's a lot more money at stake every day, every hour. It's just much bigger production value, which costs a lot of money, and time wasted is expensive. So, and when there's that much more money, there are that many more producers who are also equally concerned. So it's more stress. That's my experience. Um, Smaller TV movies and um, episodic seems a lot more relaxed. Yeah,
Right.
and smaller features much more relaxed. You know. Even on
So,
a short schedule, shoot a series, and a big film will take a year to shoot, and a small film will take 18 days. And there's less stress in 18 days.
I know. Well, I know you were doing that reoccurring scene or role on Bates Motel, and I started watching that on Netflix, but now I've seen all the seasons, so now I can't watch the ones that are on television now because I'll be out of sequence. So I'm all frustrated, but
All right.
you
Well,
know,
you've seen everything. Have you seen season 4?
I think I just saw 3 seasons and
Okay.
ended, yeah. And so I was all upset because they killed you off so soon. But then, see, they bring you back,
Yeah, I'm a
because
ghost.
you're a ghost.
Yeah.
But so, am I going to get to see you again, or
Yeah, I'm in season 4.
you're
Um,
okay? Cool.
a few times. Just little bits though.
Yeah.
I play a very influential character who's not around that much.
Yeah. Well, you're Norman Bates'
Yeah,
dead father.
yeah.
So,
Mhm.
but that's a great show. I mean, I hate I got addicted to it just because it's so dark. I'm
Yeah,
like,
I know. No
why do I
kidding.
want to
I
watch
know.
this?
Yeah,
And
it's such a good show.
yeah. But what can you tell about
They're
your role in
amazing, those
Van?
two actors, dude. Oh, Van Helsing?
Yeah, yeah, Van Helsing. Yeah,
Van Helsing, I'm having the best time. It's an absolute gas. It's a world of vampires. It's a fantasy world, and I wasn't expecting to have this much fun inhabiting that world. It's amazing. Plus, I go to work with a group of friends every day. It's my closest buddy, Vincent Gale, is on the show, and um, Simon Barry, one of the producers, um, is a great friend of mine. Um, Chad Oakes, the main producer on the show, is a great friend of mine. It's shooting right downtown. It's 5 minutes from my house. It's
really.
a great building in the middle of town, which is unusual, highly unusual to have a studio in the middle of town. It's just studio space is big, and real estate is expensive, and so
Yeah.
usually they're stuck out in the suburbs somewhere in the periphery. This is right in the middle of town. It's fantastic. So it's a great environment. All the actors are great people, and we have a great time just creating this really dark fantasy world. It's a
Yeah.
blast.
And what is your character?
Uh, I think if you ask different people on the show who my character was, you'd get a lot of different answers. I'm really kind of on the surface, seemingly a real dick. But if find out that my wife dies early on, and I'm dealing with that, and I'm sad and I'm angry. I think a lot of my behavior becomes more understandable. and but I definitely am kind of an antagonist. That's sort of my, part of my role is to be an antagonist. So my behavior is consequently antagonistic.
Okay, okay, all right. And Van Helsing, that is the vampire. That's
Van Helsing is it's Van Helsing's granddaughter.
yeah, granddaughter. Yeah.
Yeah, who is on who is being protected and is highly valuable to both the surviving humans and to the sort of rising of the vampires. So they all want her, and I don't think I'm supposed to be giving too much detail about why, because it's kind of a new idea.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. That's
Yeah.
all right. Can you tell anything about
Kelly Overton
Yeah.
is the actress, and she's wonderful. She's lovely. She's super game. She's just charming and really fun to watch. Great actress, and yeah, she's going to be good in the role for sure.
Yeah, and that's A&E. Is that A&E?
It's sci-fi.
I mean sci-fi. Okay, so okay, all right. But it's can you tell anything about Shut In? Because that's another type of, well, that's a horror, right, or thriller?
Shut In is a little thriller. Yeah, it was shot in Quebec. It's
if you can't tell anything, that's okay.
it's a neat story. It's Naomi Watts is such a lovely actress, and it's funny. I was working on that at the same time as I was doing a guest star on a series with Liev Schreiber in LA, who's her husband. So I was working with him on one day and flying to Montreal and working with his wife the next day. It was interesting. It was fun. Yeah, I was on. I think I was there for a week, and from what I saw, it was very beautiful. But haven't seen anything or heard anything since. I love the director. He was in Vancouver for a few days, and we got along great. But that's all I know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, and have you stayed in touch? It sounds like to me that you still, maybe Medium is still one of your favorite projects. Is that true, or?
Oh yeah, Medium I think will always be.
Yeah.
Projects that I've done for sure.
Yeah. And do you stay in touch with some of the people, or?
Yeah, I stay in touch with Patricia mostly. Jake Weber, we talk every now and then, but mostly, my wife and Patricia became really close as well, and my daughter became close with her daughter, and so we sort of, my wife goes. Patricia does a lot of really important charity work. She's a real fighter, that one. And my wife is involved in most of her charity efforts, so that relationship continues.
Yeah, that's great. That's good. That's good. So I just have a couple more questions. I know you got to go. I saw that. I wanted to know what you do. What do you like to do when you're not being a dad, a husband, and an actor? Like, because I saw that really pretty red car of yours, and I'm assuming that's maybe one of your hobbies or passions.
Yeah, it's one of my hobbies. Yeah, I have a little shop here that fixes old cars with some friends. When we all have motorcycles, and I love to plan a couple of good motorcycle trips in the summer. But between the family, trying to stay in shape, and keep the work going, it's pretty all consuming.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're busy. I know you're busy. Somebody put on the internet that no wonder Detective Scanlon was so tired because you had all
Yeah,
these
the
kids.
kids. That's right. Yeah.
I know. So anyway,
Yeah.
but it's been fun. I've been posting a lot of your trailers to the.
Oh,
And
great.
there's someone, yeah, you have some big fan. I don't remember her name, but she has this whole YouTube video with all this music and
Aw,
all your pic. Yeah, so she's got a
wonderful.
big crush on you. But it's
Yeah,
cute. It's cute. I liked
wonderful.
it. So my last question is, what advice would you give, David, to, I don't know, an inspiring actor, if there was something you could say that might be watching this live or on replay or whatever?
Yeah, my advice would be that that it so much to do with success is timing. Just having to being in the right place to take advantage of an opportunity when it arises. So you can be tremendously talented and just not hit that moment. And it can happen right away, or it can take years. But just persevere and find a way to find satisfaction in the work that you're doing to get work. To tide you over the audition process, doing classes. That has to be fulfilling in and of itself, because you could be there for a long time, or not, but you could be before you getting professional work. But don't get discouraged if it takes time, because it's so much of it is luck.
Yeah, it really is. I mean,
Yeah.
but you've done well. And I mean, I just, you've been in so many things. And I'm going to put everything in my blog article that you sent me. And it's just, I think you're very much an inspiration because of the fact that you are a dad and you're a husband, and you got all these kids, and yet it looks like you still manage to have the family time, and plus you continue to pursue your passion. And I think that's very inspirational. So
I feel lucky for sure, and I'm by no means an expert. It's just one foot ahead of the other.
yeah, but it's
Going.
great. You keep going, and I like that, because I see so many people. I'm kind of all about inspiring people to go after the dream, no matter what age.
Yeah.
And especially after your kids are growing up and leaving the nest, because I think too many people give up and quit, and there's so much wonderful opportunity out there. So
Thanks,
yeah.
Tamarah. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I'm so glad. So don't hang up yet. I hate to end this, but I know you got to go. I know you've got a lot going on at home today. And but is there anything you wanted to add, David, before I say goodbye to the viewers, or like that we didn't mention?
I think we've covered everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it has been a pleasure.
Yeah, really. I'm gonna put all the great, because you had so many great pictures. I'm gonna have everything in for the view. Anyone who's watching this, like the replay, I'm gonna have all David's information in my blog article, as well as the YouTube replay, and so you'll be able to have all the work that he's done that maybe we didn't touch on today. And so I just want to thank the viewers, and I want to thank you again, David, for being here. It was so nice to you to do this. I'm really excited. Yeah. So don't hang up yet. I'm going to say goodbye to the viewers, and I want to thank them and remind them to follow tamarahscloset.com. And like I said, I'll have all the links. I'll have the replay to this interview. And join me again in a couple weeks, because I'm going to be interviewing a really incredibly talented, she's a Swiss pianist. And her name, I'm going to pronounce it right, is Salome Scheidegger. Okay. So I hope I said that right. And she's I met her the other day. She's fabulous. And David's been fabulous. So I'm excited. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks on Tamarah's Closet. And okay, I got to do this, David. I think this is a wrap. So, I know, I'm so excited. I was like, I got to do this. So hang on a second.